they chose to set it obviously in New York in 1961, right in this neighborhood here. What was going on down here at that time?
Well, right around the corner, Washington Square Park, there were, I noticed driving in, there were signs around Washington Square Park, no unnecessary noise. I thought that had to be one of the most interesting city council meetings. Yes, okay, we'll put up signs, no unnecessary noise, because there were bands that played. There would be a klezmer band in one corner, and a jazz band in another corner, and a folk band in another corner, bluegrass band. And there was a lot of, they had to get permits, I think, on Sunday afternoon or something to show up and play. So there was this, and there was the Beat generation was in full swing, Ginsberg and Kerouac and those guys. So there was a tremendous amount of energy, intellectual energy focused on this place down here, and a tremendous amount of wealth of knowledge poured in. So it was a very fertile ground for a young man, a young musician with vision to walk into.
What was, musically, sort of where were we at that point?
Well, I think like on the radio would be all kinds of things. Little Tommy Tucker and Patti Page and Peggy Lee and Marvin Gaye. So a lot of crazy stuff was happening. There'd also be Peter, maybe there would be folk records that would come through occasionally. And there were a lot of strange things, like remember The Lion Sleeps Tonight?
Yes.
Those kind of things, like where'd that come from?
Right.
That's folk music, to be sure.
Yeah. It was 61, Dylan hadn't arrived here quite yet. What was happening in these clubs?
Oh, I think, there were, now this is not an area, I must say, that I've studied a lot or know a lot about, but there were really interesting young songwriters. Dave Van Ronk being the sort of they called him the mayor down here, But, there was a guy named Tom Rush. There was a band called the Queskin Jug Band. There was a guy named Spider John Kerner. There was Joan Baez and Mimi Farina, who were like the most extraordinary young women. There was a scene that grew out of Cambridge, in an axis between here and Cambridge, that had a lot to do with preservation, that had to do with the thinking of Emerson and Thoreau and Whitman passed down through Woody Guthrie and, through Elvis Presley in a way, right? From when he took folk music and began reinventing it, for the last half of the century. Then Dylan did it again a few years later. So there was that. There was a lot of different kinds of music. There were a lot of people looking for more sources. There was a band called the New Law City Ramblers that was a really important group. John Coen, those guys would go down. Mike Seeger, they would go down into North Carolina and Virginia and record people and bring the music back, and everyone would learn it.